It's Monday night, 8 p.m. in the city. Well, a few seconds after 8 p.m. Facebook, YouTube Lives, how are you? Listen, tag, share, remind your friends to look at this. Even after it's not live, you're just on it. Disadvantage, you can't comment. We have been bringing some dynamic Black history themed programs during this month, and we continue. And I'm getting right into the show tonight. My boy, my partner's on assignment tonight, but joining me in the studio tonight is Pastor Rhonda Thomas, who is the Executive Director of Faith in Florida. Our theme tonight is every night on this month, during these Monday nights, we've been doing Black excellence in various fields. Tonight is called Black Excellence Through Advocacy. And I have one of the living greatest advocates on the planet with us tonight, and I'm blessed to be a part of her team. Pastor Rhonda Thomas. Pastor Rhonda, how you doing?
I'm blessed. I'm really blessed. So I can't think of nothing else that describes how I'm doing at this present moment. But I'm so thankful to be on your show, and thank you for inviting me again. And I hope I can share something that may be a help on tonight's show.
Well, I'm sure you will, because it's just in your DNA, and I'm glad to be connected to that DNA, because this is what the good Lord put me on the planet to. And it's amazing how you think you're at one stage in life and you pass this and pass that, and everything becomes full circle, and God just connects you with the right people and places you in the right spaces to do the right things. And I'm glad to be a part of the team. We'll talk about that a little bit more. We're looking at models of advocacy, and Pastor, I may be a little further chronologically advanced than you are, but I know you still know about the movement, and you were around during those days. I grew up in Jacksonville, where the white water, the marble water fountains was what we drank out from. We had the old round net buses like you saw Rosa Parks ride. They were not air conditioned, where everybody else on the other side of town had the air conditioned buses. But I know with the work that you've been doing and are doing and will do probably until your last breath, that you know all of the models of advocacy. And what I wanted to do tonight was kind of look at those models that in the 60s, the late 50s, the 60s, and even into the 70s, that kind of got us to where we are today, and to examine those models and see if they would be effective going forward, the new strategies, and see what it takes, because we're living in strange and unusual times.
Yes.
So I just wanted to start out. So the three models that I'm looking at, and please feel free, we didn't have a chance to connect on this, but the models that I'm looking at that were prevalent primarily during the 60s were those of the Nation of Islam, the Black separatism, the Black Panther Party, who were in effect the first WIC, the first Head Start programs, and all of those things. They don't get credit for those things. And then, of course, the one that many of us subscribed to was the protest through nonviolence that was led primarily by SCLC, Dr. King and Dr. Abernathy, and so forth. How effective were they during that time, and how do you see any of those being effective during this new season that we've never seen before? Who knew we'd have to talk about that again?
I know you're actually seeing history and time repeated in a modernized way. It's amazing you asked those three models. And I'm going to be completely honest. There are times where I am in some audience and it's mixed. And when I say mixed, I'm talking gender and age. It seems, depending on what day it is and what is occurring, it's a possibility that some of these models can be effective. And then it can be another day based on the audience again. And not only will it not be effective, but some of our young people, they're not even familiar with those models or to know the sacrifice that was made in order for it to be effective. And so, you know, you may look at during the civil rights movement where we saw not just Black people out marching for what was morally right, and then you compare that march with what took place with Black Lives Matter. I'm not sure if you know, some of our young people even understood that it represented the same thing, fighting for justice, regardless of whether it was the criminal justice, the justice for Black people, and how we have been, how we're often criminalized. But it's so modern in a way that they can't associate the two to see that this is some of the same um, strategies, just in a modernized way. And if I may, I just want to give an example. In Miami, I want to use Miami for example. There was a time on South Beach, Miami Beach, Black people were not allowed on that beach unless you were working. And most of the work for Black people, it was through being someone's maid. And that was the only reason. And you had to show your ID to get on South Beach, Miami Beach, to work for white folks as their maid. And then when I look at systems now, the system at the same beach where they're going to great extremes to make sure that spring break is not there. They don't welcome the hip hop community for a lot of reasons, but they're so close to using some of the same tactics that took place in the 60s and the 50s. And so that's why I say it's just more modernized. They find a different way to say we don't want you here. And so I think that just throughout with what we see now is a modernized slavery that some cannot even react to because they don't really understand what took place in the 60s and the 50s, which is not that far, or not that long ago.
I think that I'm fortunate to have a connection to the schools and or to young people. And I mean, granted that I'm, you could probably consider me not the capital Ancient of Days, but lowercase Ancient of Days, particularly to the young people. They think that Martin Luther King was 2,000 years ago and so forth and so on. But what you are describing, they cannot connect to the systematic racism or classism. And it is the hardest chore to try to get that into their systems.
Yeah.
It's so hard. I want to look at one of those models, the Nation of Islam, who taught of Black nationalism and separatism. And this is not the exact theology of it, but it kind of puts you in the ballpark. Let's hear what Brother Malcolm had to say about it, and let's see where that goes tonight.
20 million Black people in this country have been like boys in the white man's house. He even calls us boys. Don't care how big you get, he calls you boy. You can be a professor. To him, you're just another boy. I heard him calling Ralph Bunche. Why, he's a good old boy. And if we can't do it, we should hush our mouth. If you can't do for yourself what the white man is doing for himself, don't say you're equal with the white man. If you can't set up a factory like he sets up a factory, don't talk that old equality talk. Get off the welfare. Get out of that compensation line. Be a man. Earn what you need for your own family. Then your family respects you. They are proud to say, that's my father. She's proud to say, that's my husband. Father means you're taking care of those children. Just because you made them, that don't mean you're a father. Anybody can make a baby, but anybody can't take care of them. Anybody can go and get a woman, but anybody can't take care of a woman.
That's a Black Messiah. Pastor, what's your response to that? That's spitting a lot of truth there.
I have the utmost respect for the Nation of Islam and its teaching, especially during the era of Malcolm X, and even listening to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Louis Farrakhan. Somewhere I do believe that Black people, we dropped the ball. I don't think it's too late. I don't think the ball has rolled down the hill. It is rolling, but I don't think it's rolled down the hill completely. Somewhere we failed to do a continued teaching. And that's why it sounds totally, what are we talking about when it comes to a certain generation? We dropped the ball somewhere, and I don't know where. And so they can't even relate. I don't even think some of them have ever experienced racism or can identify it. And so to be called a boy is not as offensive, especially if they use it in a space where music is related. It doesn't offend them. Where what Malcolm was talking about, and I think about my generation as well, and going forward, you can't say certain things. It's not acceptable. And I remember a few years ago, we had a consultant to come in, Faith in Florida, to do some form of bridging and how to our colleagues work together. And she was an older white woman from living, I don't know where she was from, but she was living in the state of Georgia. And for some reason, she got a little too comfortable, and she referred to me and called me gal.
Oh, Lord.
And Faith in Florida was nowhere as big as it is now. And I was an organizer. And that you got the wrong sister. Now, let me help you break down gal, because she could not understand why I was so offended. And I just think that in today's time, that may not offend some of our young Black women. But I know the next time she would think twice, and she apologized. And she said, I went back to my friends and I couldn't understand why you were so upset. And I said, what did your friends tell you? But I do believe that after our last conversation, she would think twice or three times if she's a lady.
Nice play on words.
On how to address it.
That's our theme song. My wife, we played that a lot on Valentine's night.
Okay. And so I'm not sure if they will recognize some of the things that is being said. I listened to my son, who did a phenomenal presentation, and when Zuckerberg mentioned and said what needs to be done, and really for white men, is to bring back the masculinity back into the workplace. What are you really saying for a gentleman who played both sides, if I may tell the truth? Mm-hmm. But what are you really saying? And is it, who all actually got the message? There's a message that is being said in a way that is being missed by not just young Black folks, but for some Black folks, especially if we have gotten to a place where some would look at it as we have arrived, which I don't understand what that means. We have arrived, because I was in a training where it was the Black Institute, and they gave an example that a poor, homeless white man in this country has more privileges than a rich Black man.
Unbelievable. Well, one of the things that, and I think you were on here with us, and I fail to I think people take for granted. I take for granted that people know Pastor Rhonda has graced us and been with us several times. She is the executive director of Faith in Florida. Would you just take a second and tell our audience what Faith in Florida does and is about, please, Pastor?
Okay, Faith in Florida is a nonprofit organization where we organize multiracial, faith leaders, congregants around racial, social, and economic justice. We're in 40 counties in the state of Florida. We have so many local issues that we care about as well. Reducing gun violence and mass incarceration is a statewide initiative, immigration, and protecting democracy. And then when it comes to our local counties, there's always something going on, whether it be housing, public education, Black history. And so that's basically what we do. We meet people where they are. We don't just organize faith leaders. We realized we just couldn't win anything with the church only. Well, we need to really, really engage persons that are impacted. And I must say, and I'm blessed to say and honored to say that I do serve as the first Black woman in this position of being the executive director. Under my leadership, I am so grateful, and I give God all the glory that when I started out in 2012, we were in 4 counties and we're now in 40. And that's under the leadership of a Black woman. But it has always been led by white men. And I believe now more than ever, as I did when I was hired, that white folks cannot fix Black folks. We got a job to do ourselves.
I am so glad, and I want to get back to the nation and
Yes.
that concept. But I am so glad that you brought that point out, because it's going to kind of get where we are. The statistics from the November 5th election indicated that 82% of Black men voted for the Democratic candidate, Ms. Kamala Harris, and had that number escalated just a few percentage points, this nation will be in a quite different position than it is right now. The Nation of Islam espouses, well, it did back in the movement. It espouses. You heard Malcolm say, "Do for yourself, get off of welfare, take care of your household," and what goes on further along in that diatribe is that he says, and we don't need their handouts. We get out and work and do what we need to do, and we take care of our areas and we support our businesses and our side of town. Well, that outside of town has kind of died out now. I think integration kind of progressed that, and I want to use the term progressed it. And I don't want us to think that we would lose a Cis-Trunk or lose a Liberty City or something because we're able to go now to the big malls and all of that stuff. However, he says, don't forget, take care of ourselves. You know, in the Jewish community, that dollar flips over so many times before it ever leaves the community. Now, today's Nation of Islam, the Nation of Islam as we knew it then is kind of synonymous with the days Hebrew Israelites. And I'm going to at some point, you know, in the next couple of months, want to bring Israelite on and discuss some of the things. But I was engaged personally by one who just literally jumped all over me because he said, you took your money and you went and lived where you live and did this and this. I said, well, that's my money. And can I do what I want to do? It does not mean that I'm any less committed to my community and the people I live. But I understand the concept. I understand, but we're in a different. So bringing it full circle, how can that Black nationalism and Black separatism, what good would it do for us in this 2025 craziness that we're enduring right now? This February 17th craziness, madness that we're enduring.
I think that if it continues at the rapid pace that it is, we're not going to have much of a choice but to go back and support our own. I believe in supporting Black businesses wholeheartedly on every level. And I think that if we as a people really understand how valuable our dollars are, we may not have, I don't know if I can say it on the show, and you could beat me out, Most of the time when I'm on shows, I suggest they beat me out. We may not have the Elon Musk money, but what we do have that he does not have is integrity, and there's no price on that.
Yes.
Common sense, you can't buy that either.
Yes.
And we don't deliberately bring forth harm on people who already are not doing as much or can't afford it. And so I think that once we realize what our dollars mean, we wouldn't mind supporting Black businesses. In fact, when you go back into history, and I can only think about the history in Miami-Dade County because that's where I'm born and raised, Black people were doing good, and our businesses was doing good. Our corner and mom's pop stores was doing good. And unfortunately, you know, when white folks realize that how resilient we are and how brilliant we are, they became very intimidated by that because in their strategies, we should have never gotten this far. Yeah. Even with our own Black businesses, we should have never been able. What do you mean going online, buying Black products from Black businesses? And that's why they gentrified us. They could have easily, or we could have secured our own communities in a way where we do the revitalization. But they go through great extremes to try to tear down and destroy Black wealth. Generational wealth. I was just sharing with my husband today how my grandparents and my great-grandparents looked at the value in owning property, owning your own land.
Yes.
That's not valuable. It's not looked at as much as, you know, what I was raised on. Is that you keep Big Mama house. That becomes the family home.
That's right.
And now
right.
It's just not and it goes back to, do we realize we may not have that kind of money, but the value, if anybody know how and does it well in spending money, is Black folks.
Right.
We spend money we don't even have.
Yeah.
But to really be intentional on where we spend it. I don't get I hear all kind of crazy stuff. I don't get the customer service that I would get in the mall. Well, it depends on what mall you go to, because there are some malls that really don't care if you come in there or not.
Right. That's right.
They intentionally don't speak your language, even if they know it or understand it, but they could care less about your dollars and don't come in their stores. And when you talk about customer service, I don't want to call no names, but I'm gonna call one since they support DEI. McDonald's, I think they trained them to be rude. And so, I mean, I would love boycotting some of them. In fact, I'm getting great pleasure out of it. And so, but it goes back to, I just think that my dollar that I worked so hard for is worth me sewing back into people and businesses who look like me.
So I'm just so glad. I'm so glad to hear you say this and to basically endorse and bring a principle of advocacy that did work. And I think that during these trying, chaotic times, we're going to have to resort to these things. And you talked about buying land. I played around the golf today. Imagine that, me on the golf course. But I played around the golf today, and I learned that one of our elderly gentlemen that normally plays with us, he's out now on a little medical leave. But when one of the guys said, "Man, you know, so and so is you know, he's one of the richest Black people in his community," and I was like puzzled. I know his education. I don't know if he even finished high school. I was just puzzled. They said, "You know what he did? It was what you just said. He said, back in the day, he said, all we knew how to do was buy up land. And he owned so much land. And I said, oh my goodness. And that's something that our parents, my parents did. And I'm blessed now that my mother has, postured me in a position that kind of, further those lands and try to do some things with them. And I say, that's something, that's a concept that we always had, and and it made us self-sufficient.
That's right.
And when we are self-sufficient, that you can't, we don't know what this craziness is coming through right at this point. You can't take that from us. Pastor, we're going to go to break, and we're going to come back and look at, there are two other forms, at least two other, and I know you got some other ways, some other things you would introduce into us. Thank you so much. My guest tonight is Pastor Rhonda Thomas. She's the executive director of Faith in Florida. She's the co-pastor of New Generation Baptist Church down in Opelika, and just a dynamo of an advocate for righteousness. I didn't say just black people. I said righteousness. We'll be right back. World.com, man, they will make you a great presentation. They will market you. They will present you. You see what they do for this show. The Toyas and Marquez and team, the Go Giga team, have all of your virtual needs, your web building. They do it like none other. You saw, or just rewind the tape and look at that address. Hit them up today and let them give you an estimate to take care of all of your virtual and all of your needs. That's GoGigaWorld.com. GoGigaWorld.com. While we're at it, I also want to mention that Pastor Ron is the executive director of Faith in Florida. Faith in Florida commissioned two of their educated, two of their brothers to come together and put together not a black curriculum, but a black toolbox, so that as these states and all other entities are taking away our ability, our tax dollars can no longer teach our kids Black history. That's all right. We should have been teaching it anyway. So we're going back to it. They teach us this toolbox training that last year was one of the best trainings I've been through in almost 70 years of life. It's coming up to that time again. We just put the post up if you would. That's next week, February the 27th. Through March the 1st, that's Thursday, Friday, and culminates on Saturday morning in Orlando. Just an awesome toolbox training, not a curriculum. You know why it's not a curriculum? Because who would look at a Jay-Z and see how he amassed his wealth? That's what a curriculum would not do. But it'll look at every aspect. We don't have to look at it like everything about everybody, but we pull the positives, and it's taught how to take that back to your community organization, to your church, to your family, and be a blessing so that our history does not die on the playing field. That's February the 27th through March the 1st. That's a Thursday, Friday, and a Saturday morning. The most awesome training I've ever been to. This is part 2, the Black History Toolbox training in Orlando. And we're going to ask Pastor Rhonda to elaborate on it in just a second. I know a lot of you all, this is at the point where I usually do a dang dog or are you serious? And y'all are asking me, Dozell, how in the world are you letting this clown off the hook? You would have normally been talking about him. Every show would have been dedicated to something. Well, you know what? I made a conscientious decision. I'm not going to let him hijack training about our history. That would not be being faithful to the song that we sing about, and we relegate it to this month. We say every year we're going to sing at least one Sunday on Sundays during the month. But that would not be fair to our training. I would not be fair to my leader who's on tonight. if we were to let him or anybody else hijack our training and teach our people strategies and ways that we survive and how we thrive. But if I was going to say something about it in this hour, since it's 1 month since he's been in office, I tell you that this is the most chaotic 30 days in the history of the American President's Day. This is President's Day. Let's talk about chaos. It's chaos.com. It's chaos central. We have had 7. Let me put the figure up. 7. That's not, wait a minute. 7, Dozell. 7. We have had 7 plane catastrophes. Thankfully, they have not all resulted in fatalities. However, there have been one. If you saw the evening news in Montreal right now, there's Toronto, there's a Delta airline plane that emanated out of the United States that's flipped over on its back. It's because this nation, this clown, and his team have cut back air traffic controllers, and the administrator of the FAA has been removed, and there's a temporary stooge in place as he's waiting to get that person commissioned. That's one thing. Federal workers, and how many of us don't have somebody in our families or somebody that we know who's a federal worker? I talked to one of my cousins just before the show. She informed me that they're living from day to day. She's a person of faith, so she says, if it's over, then that means that God meant that my season was over. But I'm sure it was not meant to end in this chaotic and crazy way. Federal workers are living, and some people, that's all they got. They don't have things to fall back on. They have a doctor behind their name or other experiences that they can go and be marketable in the workplace. That is what's happening. A technological idiot is now in charge. He has access to all of our data. He knows all about our financial situations. He and his team of juveniles. Oh yeah, by the way, he gave. If I was talking about him tonight, I say this: he gave unconditional pardons to people who actually killed policemen on January the 6th, Capitol Police. Yet Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, he's got him dangling on a string, giving him what is tantamount to a conditional pardon that as long as you play my game, you're pardoned, you're all right. But the minute you step out of line, boy, I got you. So New York City voters, I hope y'all have something to say about that. That's just some of the stuff. I don't want to get into it. I want to get back to talking about our strategies in our history. Pastor Varner, is there anything you want to say about the training that's coming? Sorry.
I don't think you're being fair to me, that you were able to get that off your chest and you didn't allow me to say not one thing about what's going on. I just don't. I think you're taking advantage of your guests right now. So, and then you want to go back to the training. I don't think I really don't. But
Pastor Rhonda, who can stop you from saying what you want to say?
I just remember, first of all, I think that the president is Elon Musk and Donald Trump is the first lady. That's what I think. Secondly is the fact that I read an article where Elon Musk said that you should hire the best, but yet they're hiring a bunch of idiots that have absolutely no training or no experience in the areas that they're being assigned. It is we have become the laughing stock in this world of under this administration. And so I just can't imagine what's next when he single-handedly is totally dismantling our government. And we're watching it. And I just can't believe those that are in office that looks like him is standing for it. It's just unheard of. It's unbelievable. I know they talked about Richard Nixon, but it's unheard of.
Well, I mean, that Congress, the party that's the party of law and order, all of that they have just totally acquiesced. And to think that in 2016 when he ran, I was glad that he was the nominee, thinking that he would be the easiest candidate to defeat. And he thought the same thing. That's why he didn't take a victory speech with him on election night. I'm a digress. I can't. Let's talk about our strategy. This guy, I'm not going to get that. Oh, I'm waiting on him. Come March, the first Monday in March. We got him. So we'll ask you back at some point.
So now you want to do it during Women's Month. I mean, you just on a roll for real.
Not the whole month. I won't do the whole show the whole month. I won't hold back on it. We're tied into how he's mistreating women. We got it. I'm not gonna get in trouble with you. Listen, to all of everybody in Dozell, thank you. I got so excited about the night show, I forgot to share it to my own page. Thank you all for finding yourself over to the dialogue. Bro Anthony Burrell, bro Bernard, you've been there with us since day one, man. Bless y'all. Inundate us with your comments tonight. I want to now go to I think we did a good job of looking at the Nation of Islam, and I love the way we were able to tie in the positives and how beneficial they would be, that those policies will be to us even tonight. Let's look at this little short docu on the real look at the Black Panther Party. Not what
in October 1966, Bobby Seale and Huey P. Newton, a pair of students in Oakland, galvanized by Malcolm X's philosophy of black self-determination, launched the Black Panther Party for self-defense. Their goal was to protect their community from racism and violence, which meant protecting it from the police.
When we first started, we had a police alert patrol, and we would patrol the community. If we saw the police brutalize anyone, we put an end to this. Usually the police wouldn't brutalize anyone if we were on hand.
Did the Panthers embrace a willingness to use arms to defend themselves? Absolutely. Unfortunately, that's usually the only part of the story that we get. Even more energy was expended in social programs.
The Panthers put their revolutionary philosophy into practical action. They developed programs targeted at poor black people. They provided the community with free medical care, including sickle cell screening programs, as well as clothing for the needy. Many believe that the Panthers' free breakfast program for school children helped inspire the USDA's federal breakfast program.
We were not for integration, we were for self-determination. We wanted to have the right to determine ourselves what we wanted. Economic opportunity, decent education, access to the full complement of privileges, benefits, and responsibilities of any American.
Not even the FBI was able to stop the spread of the Panthers' ideals, encouraging black people to defend themselves from police brutality and fight for their rights. Decades later, the Black Panthers' legacy continues to live in a variety of political, cultural, and social realms, most recently in the Black Lives Matter movement.
So people thought, Pastor Rhonda, yesterday that I had flipped my wig, that I had lost my mind because I didn't get a volunteer to do our Black History Spotlight in church yesterday, because I do what we're told to do for Faith in Florida, bring it into the church. I did the Black Panther Party. I said that's a part of our history that we need to know about. And before you come in, if you would, let me quickly go over their 10-point program. Their 10-point program was this: we want freedom, we want power to determine the destiny of our own black communities. Number 2, we want all employment for our people. Number 3, we want an end to the robbery by the capitalists of our black community. We just talked about that. Number 4, we want decent housing fit for shelter for human beings. This was in the heart of the slums that we're just seeing being upgraded to townhouse slums now. Number 5, we want education for our people that exposes the true nature of the decadent American society. We want education that teaches our true history and our role in present day society. We had that up until a few weeks ago. We want all black men, number 6, to be exempt from the military service. Number 7, we want an immediate end to police brutality and murder of black people. That gave to the life of Black Lives Matter. Number 8, we want freedom for all black men held in federal, state, county, and city prisons and jails. Number 9, we want all black people, when brought to trial, to be tried in court by a jury of their peer group or people from their black communities, as defined by the Constitution of the United States. Number 10, we want land, bread, housing, education, clothing, justice, and peace. I want to go back to number 9. I just looked at the Netflix. My son was 7 during the OJ situation, and he was enthralled with the documentary on Netflix, and he brought me into it because I was just all over that. And in that, it reminded us of the disparity of the criminal trial, where OJ was tried more by a jury of his peers, even though at the time he thought he was white, and then or non-color, as he said. And then when it came to the civil trial up in Simi Valley, he had two biracial people, and they unanimously found him liable for the deaths of Ron and Nicole. Pastor, what do you think about the request of the Black Panther Party, and how relevant would it be here today? Now, some of those things have been put into place and taken back. By the way, we talked about, Malcolm talked about black men taking care of their families. Project 2025 is going to make sure that they're making it harder for divorce and remarriage. We need Linda to come back and define that for us.
First of all, I probably would have been a Black Panther if I was old enough back then. Secondly is, if we had that movement, that would destroy half of what's on Project 2025. If we had the mindset of what the Black Panther did for its community, it would really, really mess up Project 2025. And then my son teased me, and he says, "Mommy, sometime you think you'll finish Shakur." He teased me, it's between I'm either that or Tupac. So they throw me out around, my kids do. But one of the things that I remember, they've never gotten the credit they deserve. They've never gotten the full credit, because many times we're not going to get the credit we deserve once we become a threat to an agenda.
Yes.
And so, and then they were extremely intentional about looking out for Black people, especially when it came to the criminal justice system. And if you look at the criminal justice system, if our Black cops understood the fact that, and I know you're a retired Black police officer, understood that was not in the agenda that you ever become a part of law enforcement, because they took the sheets off.
Yes.
And they became attorneys and prosecutors and judges and police officers. And so to know that that was a fight all by itself for them. One of the things that I read that Afeni Shakur said, she says, out of all of the things the Black Panther accomplished, she was very proud of their accomplishments, even though it was times where they felt like they was fighting, their fight was against the world. She said it was 2 things that she regret that they did not do. And the 2 things that she regret is the 2 things that we can do if we are intentional about doing what we could do for our own people. She says they neglected to sit at the feet of wisdom and talk to the elderly. And they neglected to consult God for guidance.
Wow.
And if she could have done it over, those are the 2 things that she would have incorporated in that movement. And when I think about those 2 things, those are the 2 things that is right there for us, where you don't have to even go to church to consult God for guidance. And then number 2, the feet of wisdom is now coming in all ages.
Wow.
And so that's why I like being around young people, because they speak a language that I don't understand. So I then sit at their feet to get the knowledge, so I can be as diverse as I possibly could. But I do believe that one of the Black Panther was very intimidating.
Yes.
To those who did not look like them, because they was bringing progress and support to our people. And we have to stop and pause and think about, why are we such a threat? And why do one go to such extremes to make life hard for us as Black people? I believe we're so resilient and they just cannot figure us out. They had no idea that trip from Africa to this crazy country was going to end up where we are now. Yeah. We did not supposed to take over nothing. We weren't supposed to be playing sports. We didn't supposed to be in no movies, entertainment. It was not a Jay-Z, a ZJ, or whoever. None of that's supposed to have existed because they went to so many great extremes to make sure that we're not successful or wouldn't succeed in anything. That's why I personally believe that one of the reasons why they're always targeting Black men is because they're so intimidated by your strength, by your mind, and everything that lies within you. They're so intimidated. And then they don't like Black women because they know we're a threat.
Yeah.
Period. And so the Black Panther was all of that. They were resilient. They stopped at nothing.
Yes, yes.
And they were not selfish.
Their very presence was intimidated, wasn't it?
It was. Not just that black leather.
Yeah.
Their presence. What came out of their mouth. They spoke truth to power. They called it out for what it was. They didn't play word games. I look at our people, we're still trying to play word games. We don't want to offend anyone. Or the Caucasian. No, they're a white man. They don't have a problem calling you who they think you are.
Yeah.
You white, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we play all these games because we don't want to offend anyone, but yet we're offended daily.
You heard on the tape that that their feeding programs is what the government modeled, and they, also the Head Start. But we don't hear that about the party. We don't hear that. We just hear the danger. Yes, they did show up on the steps of the state capitol in Sacramento, California, bearing arms, saying we need to have the rights to bear arms, and they did march through the streets bearing arms to show that we're watching you, policemen. We got our eyes on you. And it's ironic that we lost 2 there in Chicago in that bloody shootout where 600 bullets were shot by FBI agents and policemen, and only 2 were shot from the guns of Bobby Seale. I keep getting them mixed up, but we lost one of these. J. Edgar Hoover basically did what we're seeing happen right now, and God knows if Cash Patel gets in, and I think he's on his way, it's going to be like that again. He wreaked havoc, and they just had nights where they just did pre-dawn raids on Pat. That's how Feeney was arrested the last time, and they just did that to try. I mean, anything that we see that's trying to bring us together and to be a benefit to us, they find a way to tear it apart. So the concepts of that today, how can we pull from that today, Pastor?
Well, first of all, half of what they see what we do and they want to criminalize it, we got from them.
Wow.
They taught us if a kidnap should take place, they were the first kidnappers. Any form of crime, rape, lying, cheating, stealing, they taught us. They don't want to take the full credit. But we saw it firsthand from them, from our forefathers.
Wow.
And so then when you say the Black Panther, what they did in Sacramento is something like what 1,500 was pardoned for?
Right. Absolutely.
They just didn't climb up on top of a building. Right. They didn't hurt police. They didn't go into the White House or whatever their target space was. And I mean, once again, it's amazing how forgetful one group is. You know, we take this is part of our history, which is a part of American history. And yet now that same history is being tarnished because it might offend their children. It's amazing. I'm sorry. I don't want to go off.
You precipitated this. Look at Henry Glenn's comments. He says you have three kinds of white people: crackers, Caucasians, and rednecks. Wow. Well, I'm sure on other platforms that they're saying just as bad about it. And we might as well be honest and true. So I'm glad that we are getting that out. There was one other model that was predominant back in the civil rights movement, Pastor, and that was the model that many of us subscribe to because of the Christian influence of it and the predominance of the Christian spiritual influence. Let's go to the tape and see what's said about that.
The Negro citizens of Montgomery have been involved in a non-violent protest against the injustices which we have experienced on the buses for a number of years. This is a non-violent protest. We are depending on moral and spiritual forces using the method of passive resistance.
Now, Pastor, we could have said prior to November the 5th that nonviolence based on moral and some of the things that Dr. King just spelled out could make a difference. But I think we're kind of beyond that right now, aren't we?
I think, unfortunately, we are. And it's not that we wouldn't want to conduct ourselves in a nonviolent way, but they presented so many things that in order to defend ourselves, they taught us how to be violent, or they provoke us to be violent. When we have to have an active shooter training in our churches,
crazy.
That means that, and now we have a generation that don't have the tolerance that the civil rights movement was and what they were able to tolerate. I don't even have the tolerance. I just don't. And I don't even pray for it, to be honest. And so it's almost impossible because we're tired. And that worked for a season, but it appears as if that season is up. But I also look at, I was on a couple of weeks ago when I had to work in Orlando, and I got off the Brightline train, and for some reason, Orange County looked whiter than it normally looked for me.
Wow.
And I said, well, let me go to the restroom before I go catch my Uber. And there was this white lady that almost knocked me over to get in the restroom before me. So I want to just give her the credit, give her just, she was having an emergency. and that's what I used. She was having an emergency. And so, but at the same time, what I visualized, and I don't think we're that far from it, if they wouldn't try putting a sign on public restrooms to say white only and black only. I shared with our coworker Nancy. I say, Nancy, I don't know which restroom you all use, but you're probably better off with us. That's how close we are to repeating history.
Wow.
And I don't believe we have the tolerance that the civil rights movement in that generation had. I just don't. I could see us tearing the sign off and going in the bathroom and using whatever bathroom we want. And then you find the sign in the trash can. But we're not made up that way anymore. We've gone through too much. We've been through too much. We tried doing it their way. We tried working with them. Now they've pushed us in the corner where we don't have a choice but to fight back one way or the other. Hopefully it's not with violence, because I don't think that's the solution.
prior to the real craziness of hacking into our financial systems and everything, Jesse Jackson, man, time is slapping us upside the head. But Jesse Jackson in the 90s, and we were doing ministry in the Chicago area at the time, put forth the real thing about economic violence, and that kind of where we want to get to tonight. I know there are several. Jamal has a protest lined up. Reverend Jackson hit some of the bigger countries across this nation across the head, and we boycotted them. I know we boycotted Nike. We boycotted these companies until we got concessions from them. Where do we stand with Project 2025 and all of this zaniness and everything? How effective will the boycotts be? February the 28th, as I know, is a big boycott. And we'll be at the convene in Orlando, but we're asking people that are going to please do your boycotting on the 27th and on March the 2nd. We know you got to get back home, but don't forsake the boycott. Just do it on those days. They'll feel the effects of it.
I think that we're making a statement. I think that I know, well, they have my full support. Every boycott that exists, whether it's under, I know Al Sharpton has one, Dr. Jamal Bryant, his is 40 days. And it's not just a boycott, but it's a fast and a boycott. And so he has my full support. I just think that we need to be intentional and know that it's worth it. Now, I know we're not going to always win all of our people to stand together as one, because they did a number on us.
Yes.
No, they did a number on us. And you're going to always have, well, that does not apply to me. Yes, it does. Yeah. It does apply to you. I just pray that it's enough of us that can really, really stick together and stick to it, just so we can make a difference. I think we will, if we're successful, we have spoken volumes.
Yes.
But we need that success not just from poor Black folks.
Yes.
We need that from our NBA players, our NFL players, and the entertainers as well. Because if you really want to make a statement for them to get it, boycott them too.
That's right.
Now, what if we didn't buy a Jazz in the Garden ticket? And so that's why I've always said, Black folks, we spend money when we don't even have it. And our money is just as valuable.
I contend today that, and maybe it's unfair of me, but some of our Black billionaires should have made sure that Colin Kaepernick lives comfortably for the rest of his days for the sacrifice that he made for us.
That's right.
It wouldn't hurt them if they came together and dropped and guaranteed him $5 million for life, for 20 years or whatever, but because of the sacrifice that he made. This has just been too much. This has been too great. Henry, I hear what you're saying. I'm going to hit up on that as we get out of here. Pastor, I think we kind of, during the 60s, that God used all of these to help further our situation. The question of it is now is, where are we now? What do we grasp from those? What other methods do we pull now? In your closing summary, could you just kind of just let us know what it's going to take for us to get through?
I think, number one, we have a responsibility to continue to teach as much as we possibly could and as creative as we can the next generation on how rich our history is. It has to go beyond the civil rights movement. It has to go beyond slavery. Our children don't realize that we were once kings and queens. There was a rich Black man that had just as much money as Elon Musk. But anybody talks about him? No. And guess what? He was from Africa. Mm-hmm. And so until we start teaching our history where they will be proud and understand and know without a shadow of a doubt, we come from greatness. We come from greatness. And I don't think it's enough of that being said. Wearing the whole dashiki thing just in February, that's not enough.
Yes.
The February month that whoever decided to give us that. No, I'm celebrating my Blackness every day now. I see it totally different.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't need anybody telling me when I can and cannot celebrate. But what I'm not going to celebrate is some of these white traditional.
Yes.
And I'm not going to spend money. I don't need anything red, white, or blue in my house.
Yeah.
You know, and so I just think that we just need to be more intentional about understanding who we are and where we come from.
Pastor Rhonda, you have been great to be with us this night. This is a special night for her, and and we got through it with just us. If you know, that's our little inside conversation. Because I was going to make sure we didn't lose you for the night. But for those of you in Dozell, so you want to tell us what special day this is for you, Pastor?
Oh, yes, my 35th wedding anniversary. I've been married 35 years to a handsome Black man. And I couldn't have done it any different and don't want to do it any different. So I love Black men. And so I'm celebrating 35 years of being married to this one man.
To my handsome brother, Pastor Thomas, thank you for allowing Pastor Rhonda to have 1 hour. That's why I want to make sure we're out of here. A little over, we want to get out of here. So you all, I heard her say earlier, the night is not over. No, it's not. And enjoy. And she's Dr. Rhonda Thomas since he has last been with us. Now watch how cool I do this, you all. You heard her advocate for Women's Month, and we're going to do that. We're going to ask her to, maybe she'll come back at the culmination of Women's Month, even if it's for a cameo, and share with us, even if it's a spot, if it's a video, and just share with us, because she is the epitome, the model of Black female excellence, and we celebrate her and all of us during this month. Thank you, Pastor Rhonda. Really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for thinking of me.
Yes. Is there anything you want to say about the conference next week?
Oh, yeah, real quick. We're celebrating our second annual Black History Convening with Faith in Florida in Orlando. We decided to do it in the church, the Black church, this year. We wasn't giving a hotel our Black money. We're going to give it to the church. And so we know that where the power was for Black people, especially during the Civil Rights Movement, we were a threat. That's why they wanted to set us on fire and burn crosses and all that crazy stuff. But we're going to celebrate us and the accomplishments of Black people. And we're going to educate in a way to make sure that we don't repeat this cycle, knowingly that we can do something different. And just to say once again, remember, Black folks, we come from greatness.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. That's Black advocacy at its best right there. Listen, I want to thank all of our guests. I was late sharing this page out to my page, and I was so excited to get Pastor Ron on and get started in tonight's show. And I thank you all for going to the dialogues page and being with us. Henry, man, you are spot on in your comments. Mac, your questions were right there. Yeah, we need to do something about these weak unions. We need to do something about them. Pastor Ron has strongly identified these NFL and NBA. We enjoyed the All-Star game, I didn't enjoy the Super Bowl. We saw the Super Bowl. Well, all of this stuff, we have got to make that happen to make it better for our people. So as I see it that in the 60s, I'm using my brother's concept as I see it. In the 60s, in the Civil Rights Movement, Almighty God used all three of these factions. Some things have been grown on. You heard Pastor Rhonda say that Black Lives Matter is probably the closest thing to the Panthers. It kind of came out of it. It grabbed some of their concepts. It's got a white contingent to it. But the Black Panthers was about not just Black people, it was about poor and oppressed people. It was about all oppressed people. And so that's a lot of us in this nation. And even though some people may not think that, they voted for him, they're learning now that we're all brothers and sisters of oppression. So as I see it, just like God used all of those factions to help us make it through the 60s and through the 70s and to get us to where we are, as the clock is being turned back, he's using those and methods that we've never seen or never thought of Our ears have not heard, eyes have not seen, ears have not heard what he's going to do. We want to use everything available to us to advance our cause, because yes, Pastor Rhonda was so right. They didn't know what they were doing when they brought us over here. But now that we are here, we're not going anywhere else, because we built this. We're part of this, and we're going to make it excellent. And it's going to start in every human being, every household, every family, every community organization, every church, and in every community. We're going to be just what we were meant to be. We're going to exemplify Black excellence. The Black excellence continues in dialogue on next week. When we talk about Black excellence in journalism, we're intentionally not doing sports and entertainment. That stuff, we get it every year, and we're not downplaying that. We know how vital it is to our society, but we're going to look at some of the things that we don't look at. And I want to thank the Go Giga team for these few minutes over. Listen, ours is a rich history. Let's continue the tradition. They took it out of the schools. Let's be even stronger and intentional in teaching it to our children. We are people of greatness. We are people of excellence. And let's be excellent Black people. Thank you, Bernard. Look forward to you, brother. Appreciate you, man. Love you. Dialogue with Dozell. We'll see you next week.